Bombings and airstrikes are forcing hundreds of thousands of people to flee Lebanon as the Israeli military battles the Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah in the ongoing conflict. At the Masna border crossing between Lebanon and Syria, Amal Ismail's 18-year-old son is leaving to seek a future she says Lebanon can no longer offer. It's a painful farewell for Ismail. My son, she says. This country has no future. It left nothing for the youth. Her younger daughter plans to leave when she reaches 18 too.
This is my only brother. I don't have any other but him. He went to continue his education and I will follow him after 4 years. There's no future in Lebanon anymore.
These families are all also leaving for Syria. The crater they have to cross, caused by an Israeli strike on October 4th, is a stark reminder of the dangers they now face in Lebanon. This father of 5 says his family decided to leave after surviving some near misses.
I have children. You can't just stay where you are. We tried going to another place. We moved from Baalbek, where they hit near my house. We had to leave again. I have children. We can't stay. We are going to Syria because it could be safer than where we are.
The United Nations Humanitarian Response Agency said on Saturday that more Lebanese have now been displaced than during the last major war between Israel and Hezbollah in 2006. Around 1 million people fled their homes back then. On Monday, the head of the United Nations Refugee Agency said 270,000 people had already fled Lebanon for Syria and warned the displacement crisis could get worse.
Syria has opened the doors to all those fleeing Lebanon. Both Lebanese refugees and Syrian returnees in Syria need immediate relief assistance.
Filippo Grandi was speaking in Geneva at the annual UN Human Rights Commission meeting. He reported an unprecedented 123 million people now displaced around the world by conflicts, persecution, poverty and climate change. Grandi urged countries to rethink their border measures, saying tightening them is an ineffective move and sometimes unlawful.
Meng, the mother, is usually keeping one cup on her chest, giving milk. So the other one is usually hiding somewhere else on the bed, and we said, okay, let's give it a try. That we show up the bed here, that we can do it with the keepers together, but not backstage. We do it on stage. So what is so important that these are bridge makers, heart openers. And if you see these tiny little cups, of course, even my heart is always warming when I see them.
Australian anti-monarchists have launched a campaign to mock Britain's King Charles and his wife Camilla's visit to Australia this week. Australia is a constitutional monarchy with the British monarch as its head of state, although the role is mostly ceremonial. Even so, anti-monarchists like Nathan Hansford, co-chair of the Australian Republic movement, are promoting a tongue-in-cheek campaign to cut ties.
We're calling it a farewell to monarchy tour. It's a bit like a rock and roll farewell tour. We're absolutely welcoming Charles and Camilla here this time around. We'd love to wave goodbye to royal reign. Next time they come, we'd love to welcome them as visitors, absolutely welcomed by an Australian head of state.
Australians voted against becoming purely a republic in a referendum in 1999, but there have been repeated calls for another ballot. The 1975 sacking of Prime Minister Gough Whitlam by Governor-General Sir John Kerr, who represented the monarchy, remains one of the country's most polarizing political events, representing an unmatched level of intervention by the Commonwealth. The Republic movement hopes to reignite discussion about a vote during the royal visit from October 18th to 26th, and urge Australians to consider the role a ruling British king plays in 2024 and beyond. But polling shows Australians remain ambivalent about becoming a republic. News Corp newspapers this week published a poll showing 45% support Australia remaining a constitutional monarchy. That's compared to 33% who support Australia becoming a republic. And the rest is undecided. Alexander Volz from the Australian Monarchist League prefers things to remain as they are.
I'm simply waiting for the Republicans to produce an idea that really is something more than vague platitudes and appeals to emotional arguments. It's something that could actually be better than what we already have.
Despite having been on the record saying he wants an Australian as Australia's head of state, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has not actively campaigned for the British monarch to be replaced. Media reports this week say King Charles, via his assistant private secretary, had responded to the Australian Republic movement in a letter, saying the matter is up to the Australian public to decide.
The world's biggest luxury group has a growing problem with China. French giant LVMH on Tuesday reported a 3% fall in sales over the third quarter, dropping to just under $21 billion. That was their first decline since the pandemic era. Sales in Asia outside Japan, which largely means China, plunged 16%. The country's post-health crisis spending spree faded away last year, with a property crisis weighing on consumer confidence. Hopes that government stimulus measures would revive spending appetites have yet to pan out. The new numbers disappointed analysts who had forecast modest growth. One told Reuters that LVMH badly undershot expectations, posting misses across the board. The firm's key fashion and leather division, home to labels like Louis Vuitton and Dior, saw sales decline by 5%. That was miles off forecasts for a 4% rise, and the first drop since 2020. It all came after news of an even bigger decline at Italian rival Ferragamo, adding to a sense of deepening gloom. Now the LVMH figures are likely to weigh on luxury stocks, with the firm considered a bellwether for the whole sector. Analysts at UBS now predict the third quarter will be the worst for luxury brands in 4 years. They forecast a 1% decline in year-on-year sales.
Representatives for French soccer player Kylian Mbappé called allegations of rape against him, quote, totally false and a slanderous rumor. Media reports say he's the subject of an investigation over an incident at a hotel in Stockholm last week. Swedish prosecutors have confirmed a probe was launched into an alleged rape. They did not identify a suspect. Sweden's public broadcaster and 2 dailies named Mbappé as a suspect, citing unnamed sources. Media reports said the 25-year-old had been on a private trip to Stockholm last week with a group of friends. On Monday, he posted a link to a French media story about the matter on social media and called it fake news. Mbappé's lawyer told a French TV channel he had done nothing wrong and that it was unclear if he was the target of the complaint. She said Mbappé would cooperate with the Swedish justice system if he was directly targeted by an investigation.